Welcome to your favorite program, Books and Nooks of Hope. This is a program where we discuss books, and nothing but books. We have books for all varieties, books for young children, books for youths, books for adults, books for health, and books for every aspect of life. And today in studio, we have very, very special guests who have joined us today. I have with me Sister Elizabeth Koech, who has come all the way from Eldoret, a very, very strong literature evangelist with many years of experience distributing books to people from all walks of life. Welcome to the studio. You can say hello to the viewer.
Hello, viewer. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And next with me, I have Sister Tabitha Opiyo. She's also another veteran literature evangelist with many years of experience distributing truth-filled literature that inspire hope and build people's lives across the board. Sister Tabitha, please say hello to the viewer.
Wow. Hello, viewer. Welcome.
Thank you so much. These two wonderful ladies are here just to help us come to speed with the special books that we have today. And today we're going to focus on a very, very special book just for the children. And which book have we on studio today, Sister Elizabeth?
We have the book Bedtime Bible Stories.
Bedtime Bible Stories.
Yes.
You know, just a look at the title alone is inspiring. Bedtime Bible Stories. So what's the book all about, Tabby?
It's about beautiful Bible stories that we can talk to our children, that will encourage our children in their characters and also their spiritual growth.
So are these books just for the children or even for adults? Is it a book that anybody can read?
It is a book for everybody because the topics that the stories that are there are all from the Bible. Now, just from the title, the Bedtime Stories, it is a book that is supposed to be read to your children, especially when they're going to sleep. Now, growing up, I grew up many years ago when my grandmother would
look
never
that old.
Praise God for that. Now, my grandmother would sit us down and tell us beautiful stories. And that one we at least made us grow respectfully, you know, with the character building, with the different characters, you know, talking about honesty, obedience. But now, where are the grandmothers now? They, even if they're there, but are they there for their grandchildren? They're actually not there. People have become so busy. So that's why this book, the Bedtime Stories, is for you, parent. You can read it to your child who cannot read. And to that child who can read, they're able to read the stories and understand. So,
Sister Elizabeth, is your experience the same as Tabby, or you did not have a grandmother to narrate to you those funny stories in Eldoret?
Eldoret, there are so many grandmothers. Apart from my own,
so
I got the stories,
from many grandmothers.
Many grandmothers.
Tell us more about that.
One thing I can say so much is that it was actually the best way to end the day. That's why the Bedtime Bible Stories. When you start the day, they have a lot of ups and downs.
The hustle and bustle that you have to go through.
And now in the evening, waiting for a story, it was the best
experience.
Thing. Yeah.
What were these stories about? Was it about the lions and the giraffes and the cheetahs?
Of course they were there, but more so it was on the Bible stories, so that it will build and make my character to be the character of Jesus.
So these stories, Tabitha, they were actually value-building stories that our great-grandfathers, fathers, and great-grandparents shared with us.
Yes.
And today you have said that life is a little bit different.
Right.
Some people say that we have left our children to grow up with the gadgets. Could you shed light on some of these things?
Unfortunately, yes, because everybody is out there making money or looking for money. And you realize that some people who have the money have house helps. Now, you leave your baby with a house help whom you do not even know the God he is worshiping. You trust your babies with these people, yet you do not even create time for your own children. Now, when you have somebody in the house whom you do not even know the God they worship, it's very easy for this child to be distracted to worship another God. And that is why when you have bedtime stories, you bond with your child. When you bond with your child, so many things will be positive. Because when you bond with your child, communication is going to be really good. A child or your child will be able to communicate and tell you so much that is going on in their lives. But when you don't bond with your child will be able to bond with somebody else who will not bring positive energy.
You know, when you talked about leaving our children under the care of these househelps, these nannies, I've had some very weird experiences of children being introduced to sodomy or lesbianism. I don't know whether you've heard of such experiences, Elizabeth.
I have, and it's so bad.
It's terrible to allow children to go through this. What about these other gadgets like television sets? You know, some children grew up under the influence of mobile phones to shape their character and their livelihood. What can
it's as a result of our busy lives. That's why we push our children to these gadgets. And you see, that is
PS,
like
PS
system.
That's why I'll say the Swahili word. Asiyefunzwa na mamake, hufunzwa na ulimwengu. So we are pushing our children to the ulimwengu.
So it's the world that brings them up, and that can be cruel on them.
Very cruel on them.
And another thing is the gadgets are so addictive. They're so addictive negatively. And then the games that are in there are not like very good games. Some are really bad that really influences your child to think negatively.
The warlike games or the competitive things.
And it breaks my heart when you go to the store and you see little children carrying guns and they're crying for guns. Why? It's because of these cartoons that they watch, the games that they watch all the times. So it gets into their mind and they think it's really cool to shoot somebody. And you see parents buying guns and put water, and then
they just practice shooting with water. And you don't know, when they grow up, they end up doing the actual thing.
To you as a parent.
Water, but guns. And you're saying it will come back to you as a parent?
It really does. It really does.
That would be very sad.
And have you seen kids like who, like they have been brought up that way? So when you go out in the public and the child wants something, they want it now.
And they cry for it now, they crave for it, but
it's
they wouldn't even give you space.
It's terrible.
Now tell me about bedtime stories. How would this book help in our upbringing, in bringing up our children with the right values that we would want them to have? Sister Tabby, you can set us off.
The beauty about this book, the different stories that are here, each and every story has where the story is coming from. Like, for example, the boy whose dream came true. This comes from the book of Genesis, chapter 39 and up to 45. Now, as a parent, you're probably wondering, who is this boy whose dream came true? So, if you're reading to that child who doesn't know how to read, you as a parent will be like, now who is this? But when you get into the Bible, you realize that it's Joseph. Joseph was a dreamer.
When you lifted that book, I could actually see the coat of many colors.
Right?
And it's beautiful. I can imagine when you are going through such a book with your kid, children love things that are attractive, that have all those beautiful colors.
Right. So even if it's to a child who cannot read, you can even introduce them to Joseph. So you say, hey, Joseph, this is Joseph. You don't even have to read the whole story. And then with time, you continue to tell them about who this Joseph was. You can even tell them about Joseph who had a coat of many colors. And then you get to the story and tell them how he got this coat of many colors.
So Elizabeth, when we go through such stories, I believe the children are supposed to be picking up good moral values. What would be the value that my child would pick as a result of reading the story of Joseph with his coat of many colors, with the dreams of Joseph that came true? What moral values would that instill in my children?
First of all is obedience.
Obedience.
Joseph was very obedient to the parents. That's why when he was even sent, he could go. And like most of our children, when you send them, they'll say, I'm tired, mommy, I'm not going. So the obedient thing is, that's a great value. Very important value that we need to instill in our children.
I think it is also us parents to blame. Because, we grew up in a certain generation where we were being, you do a mistake and you're in big trouble. Not only with your mom, but with your uncle, with your neighbor, you're in big trouble. But right now, you know what happens? When you're blessed with that child, you say, hey, you know what? I did not get this when growing up. So let my child enjoy this. We are making a total mess.
So it's the parents who are now spoiling their children and leading them in the wrong track altogether.
Correct. Because you think you're doing your child a favor when a child asks for a sweet, you're like, okay, mama, you're my mama. Yes. Or you go to the supermarket and your child wants a bicycle, whatever. You give each and everything. You don't even teach your child that, you know what, you cannot have it now. So your child grows up knowing that anything your child wants, he gets.
So tell me about this prince whom God chose to be his son.
The prince is servant.
To be his servant.
Yes.
Yes.
A beautiful story. This is the story of Moses.
Ah.
Yes, Moses. You see how interesting and interactive it can be, even if you're reading it to your child. Yes, because you'll be like, okay, now whom do you think this is?
Yes.
And as a parent, you might not know. So you are forced to refer to the Bible, and you're able to read together as a family. So then you're also able to talk more about Moses. How was he able, how did God choose him to be a servant? You understand? So it's very interesting.
So Elizabeth, as you take these books out there to the people, how are these books able to help the young people in the community? How are the children being blessed as a result of reading a story such as that one? The prince whom God chose to be his servant.
First of all, the word of God has power. It's living. It's sharper than any double-edged sword.
Yeah, that's what the Bible says.
When you teach your child on the Bible stories, they will always relate with the Bible. They will want to live the Bible. They want to emulate the characters in the Bible. So, for example, this prince. This prince, you will want to be the prince. You will want to be that prince whom God chose
to be his servant.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that means that I have to order my life and live in a certain kind of style in order to be like Moses?
Yes.
And then apart from that, these books are beautiful because we thank God for schools. Now, when you encourage your child to read, it will help them in their language. They'll be able to communicate easily.
Okay.
It will also help them in their spiritual life.
Okay.
And in most schools, they do what is called Christian religion education. So this will also help them perform well in class. So can you imagine, you are your child's pastor, your child's teacher, you're your child's everything. Your child will definitely look up to you.
Oh, that's a plethora of blessings, multiple blessings that one can get out of just one book.
Correct.
Bedtime stories for kids. I get the spiritual value, the mental value in my academics, and also the moral growth as a result of reading this book.
And who would not want that anyway? Everybody wants.
Together with that, you will get the eloquence in speech and the reading skills.
They become more articulate.
Yes, this is the best way to end the day. In that every evening, you're here with your son, your daughter, reading, hey mommy, this. Now, reading these few lines and at the same time showing the pictures. Now, this sticks in the mind.
So is that not going to be boring to do that every day of the week?
It can't be boring because the stories are different. You're not going to read the same story every day.
So each day comes with its story.
Each day, and then before you start your story, for example, if you read about different stories, you ask your child, now, do you remember what we read yesterday? Even if your child remembers even one line, that's a plus.
And there's a connection.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, viewer. You're watching the program Books and Nooks of Hope. And in studio today, we have Sister Elizabeth Koech and Sister Tabitha Opiyo. They're bringing us to speed on the tenets or the gems that we can glean out of this wonderful book, Bedtime Stories. A book that you can read with your child as you come to the end of the day. It's actually called the best way to end the day. We've heard about Joseph, we've heard about Moses, and when we come back after the break, we'll get to know that it's not just about the boy child, there's also the girl child, and we'll get more lessons that you can glean from a book such as this. So don't go away, stay tuned. We'll be back right after the break. Welcome back to the program Books and Nooks of Hope, and today we have had in studio and the two wonderful ladies who continue to help us understand this book, Bedtime Stories. These are none other than Elizabeth Koech and Tabitha, Opiyo. And from them, we have gleaned some of the gems that we could pick from this story, Bedtime's Bible stories. And we've heard of the story of Joseph. We have heard about the story of Moses. And we've just learned that it's not just about the boy child. There's something that we can also learn that would be helpful to the girl child as they build their moral values. Tabi, you could start us off by telling us about this foreign girl who became a brave queen.
Yes.
Who could that child
I
be?
love the story of this brave lady or queen. That is Queen Esther. This was a wonderful lady. Look at what she went through. But she had a relationship with God, you know? So if you have a daughter, or you have a niece, or you have a neighbor, you know, it doesn't bother, provided it's a girl child. This is a story that you can relate. You can talk to your child. You can also talk to yourself. Yes, because it doesn't mean that if Esther was a lady, so everything she did, it has to just be related to ladies. Esther went through so much, and she dared.
Yeah, she was a daring
Yes,
person.
so that is also talking to me and you, that we also have to be daring, even when it does not make sense, even when the situation looks really, really tough.
Okay, Elizabeth, what can you tell us more about this brave girl who then became Queen Esther?
The praying Esther, you see? You look here. This queen was praying. She was so prayerful.
Called her servants to help us pray and fast for 3 days.
Yeah, for 3 days.
And saved her tribe.
The whole Israelites.
The whole group of Israelites.
Yeah. So it will teach this child to always pray.
I believe that it's very important, Tabitha, to help our children know how to pray while they're still young.
Yes.
And something that I had you mention is that a story like this would be helpful to either gender.
Right.
Whether you're a boy child or a girl child, you still need to pray.
You need to pray.
Similarly, from the story of Joseph and, you know, you talked about obedience.
Yes.
Both, you know, boys and girls need to learn principles of obedience.
Correct.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So there's so much that we can learn from a book such as this, Bedtime Bible Stories. Right. Tell us about this man whose God was stronger than the lions. You know, you can imagine a man whose God is just stronger than the lions.
And you know, in Africa, we know that the strongest is the lion.
Yes.
So if you want to tell me that there's somebody who is stronger than the lion, it has to take God.
Definitely.
Yes. So this man is called Daniel. I read the story of Daniel, and my faith grows each and every day. Daniel trusted. Daniel believed in God. And if we continue to read the story, you are encouraged that even if you go to the leadership, for example, if you're working and you have to be disobedient, for the sake of God's name, you have to do it.
You can defy the king of the land as long as you're faithful to God.
Can you imagine?
And it tells us that God will protect you in such circumstances.
And he did. He did.
And that's exactly what he did to Daniel.
Right.
Tell us more about that, Elizabeth.
Daniel trusted in God. Daniel believed that God was going to save him. Even our own children, God will save them in whatever situation they can be. Yeah.
And Daniel did not just believe, he had a relationship with God. When you have a relationship with somebody, you already know that this person loves this person loves that. So because he had a relationship, he was so prayerful, he knew what God loved. So he believed in God even when it did not make sense.
Even when it did not make sense.
Even when it did not make sense.
You know, sometimes I find the stories in the Bible, you know, very funny. Some of them, you know, God is just humorous.
Right.
Talk about this one who is called the sulking prophet.
I know. You know what? I'm thinking if this sulking prophet happened in this day and age, he would be in big trouble. Because there's no way you're going to get lost for 3 days and come to me and tell me you're in the belly of a fish. How?
You are alive.
How? No way. No way.
And the enzymes in the belly of the fish did not consume you.
For me, that does not even make sense. But to God, it really does. This is the story of Jonah.
The story of Jonah.
The story
when
of
I
Jonah.
go to heaven, I'll ask Jonah, how did you survive inside that?
I know.
And what do you think Jonah is going to tell you about that?
Wow. I'm really waiting for that day.
I'm curious to hear you just asking Jonah, how was it like in the belly of the fish for 3 days and 3 nights?
Sure.
Now, when you tell children, when you read for these children bedtime stories like that about the sulking prophet, and Jonah had to learn the principle of forgiveness, God's forgiveness, what does this do to a child, Elizabeth? just learning about Jonah and the principle of forgiveness, what does that do to a child?
As our children are playing outside there with other children, they need to, when they have the art of forgiveness, they'll be forgiving each other, because they're hurting every now and then. When they're playing, they hurt. Some can even accuse them, but they
sometimes
learn,
even falsely.
Yeah, falsely. And from the story of Jonah, they will say, like, Jonah, I forgive you.
And then forgiveness also makes you have, your friendship will also continue to grow.
So these two children who are playing out there,
yes,
learning the principles of forgiveness, help their friendship to grow.
Right, because, hey, you hurt me, you took my toy, I forgive you. You did this, you called me names that are not supposed to be, I forgive you. That means this friendship is going to continue.
I can imagine if as adults we live lives which are unforgiving. You know, you are the one who ends up hurting.
It really, yeah.
You're the one who is actually killing yourself.
Yes.
So it makes me think that these bedtime Bible stories, they're actually not just for children, but even as adults, we can learn valuable lessons from stories such as Jonah's story.
Right, right.
Yeah, and so it's really beautiful to read these stories every night before one retires to bed. You know, if you read a beautiful story before going to bed, I can even imagine that while sleeping you'll be getting sweet dreams in the night.
No nightmares. No nightmares.
As opposed to watching a horrific movie, people killing one another, and then when you get there to sleep, you think that, you know, those gunmen are chasing after you, or the lions chasing after you. You need to, you know, get to good thoughts just before you sleep, isn't it?
Yeah, reading is good for the brain.
It's good for the brain.
Yeah, it makes your brain even younger.
And you relax.
And you relax. And it makes you travel to different places. Yes, I have not been to Tanzania, but because I have read, I have been to Tanzania. How about that?
You better go to Tanzania. It's not very far from here.
No, but reading sincerely makes you travel.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, makes
you get to know so many places before you actually get there.
Correct.
There is a story in this bedtime Bible stories about the man who came through a roof.
Right.
What is this about this man who had to come through a roof?
I love that story because it's about the paralytic man. And why I love this story, it's because of the people he was hanging out with. You know, if you're hanging out with negative people, they will end up taking you to negative places with negative energy.
Yes.
But listen, this man believed in God. He trusted Jesus and his friends also. So, and Jesus had so many people to see. They were like, you know what, we're not taking any chances. Even if it means we're going to get you through the roof, we're going to
we will do that.
And that's what they did.
And that is what they did. So you as a parent, now I'm talking to you as a parent, which people do you hang out with? Do you hang out with negative people so that when something is bad, when you have a problem, maybe at place of work,
they'll not be there for you?
Exactly.
Now you're talking about me as a parent, but what about you as a child, Elizabeth?
Exactly.
Me as a child, I'll always encourage my parents, even if they are sick, I'll tell them, Mommy, you're going to get well, because the paralytic man got well. Because I'm here, I'm encouraging you, encouraging you that you're going to get well.
So this is a story with an encouragement that God is there, He is a healer, He'll be with us even in tough situations such as sicknesses.
Sure. And do you know even kids can also encourage their parents? You know that? Yeah, we have kids who let's say, oh, you know what, Mom, it is going to be okay. Yes. So encouragement doesn't just have to come from parents or adults.
It could come from children
even
too.
From children.
Only children who have the Bible students, bedtime Bible stories.
Bedtime Bible stories.
Yes.
Now there's one story, this bedtime Bible stories about this greedy man.
Right.
What is this greedy man all about?
Greedy man. Greedy man is about Zacchaeus.
Zacchaeus.
Yes. Yes,
he was a tax collector.
Yes. And
he could grab from people.
He was collecting more than the government required of him.
Yes, so that he will become rich.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in this present society, most of us are greedy.
Yeah. Did you say most of us? I thought you just said some of us.
I will not say some. Most. I will not even say some.
This is actually part of our sinful nature.
It is, exactly. Yeah. We're so greedy. We have so much, yet we still need so much.
We still go grabbing more and more.
Even from those people who do not have.
So we are Zacchaeus?
Exactly. Wow. Exactly. But I love the end of his story.
Tell me about the end.
He got to meet Jesus. And when he got to meet Jesus, he returned everything he took, not
Yeah, 4 times.
exactly.
Yeah.
So can you imagine?
And he even gave half of his wealth to the poor.
Right.
So this greed in him was taken care of.
Exactly.
Never to be part of his lifestyle again.
So that's something that is really encouraging. It doesn't matter how much you have grabbed. All you need to do is climb that tree. And when you climb that tree, you're
By
going to
faith.
see Jesus. Yes, you're
And
going
Jesus will bring all the transformation.
and he's not going to only bring that. He's going to come and dine with you in your home.
Oh my,
How
this is beautiful. This
It's
is
a beautiful
beautiful,
story.
Tabitha.
Exactly.
Tell me about this Jairus' daughter. You know, we were talking about boy child and girl child, and there's also this Jairus' daughter. What happened to her?
She died. And when she died, Jairus was there telling Jesus that my child is sick, and the child was dead. But in the book, Bedtime Bible Stories, you're going to learn that Jesus can even resurrect the dead.
He was able to resurrect the dead and bring them back to life.
Even the people who are dead now, when Jesus comes the second time, they're going to be resurrected.
So
that means this book can give us hope.
Yeah, great hope.
And you can be having different situations in your family. It could be health problems, financial problem. Jesus is here to raise you up.
Do you know we live in a very hopeless world, and people are now looking for whatever they can grasp because they have no hope.
Right.
Especially with situations such as what Elizabeth has talked about, when you lose a loved one, a wife or a husband or a child or a parent. You're really looking forward to that kind of hope. That if Jesus raised Lazarus' daughter, Jairus' daughter, then he can bring the dead back to life. He even raised Lazarus from the grave.
Exactly.
So even as we can actually choose to align ourselves with that Jesus, and so that we have hope of resurrection.
I choose Jesus.
You choose Jesus any day.
Jesus. Every day, every moment.
Oh, thank you so much. So what's the beauty about reading bedtime Bible stories every night before you go to sleep?
You bond with your child.
You bond with the child?
You make your child meet Jesus.
You help your child to meet Jesus. What about you, Elizabeth? What's the beauty about reading this with your child every night?
I understand the Bible.
You grow to understand the Bible?
Yes, and I get to know Jesus.
You get to know Jesus.
I grow my faith day by day.
And I also encourage my child to read because like in this day and era, with the social media, people watching. When you encourage your child to read, you also encourage them to also be good in school. You know, just like we mentioned.
You say, just as you had said earlier, it's not just about spiritual growth.
Right.
It also helps in their mental growth, in their academic growth, and in all spheres of life.
Yes.
And what about in their interactions, interrelations with others in school or at home?
They will relate the way Jesus related with his
perfectly well
on earth. Yes.
Yes. See, the Bible says he was growing socially,
in stature, and
in favor
wisdom
with God and man.
Yes.
Oh, that would be so beautiful to grow in favor with God and man.
Yes.
Thank you so much, dear viewer. You've been watching Books and Nooks of Hope, a program that brings to you different kinds of books, and we just give you an opportunity to grasp these books and devour them and enjoy the gems that you can glean from these books. We have been talking about bedtime Bible stories, and on studio we have had Elizabeth Koech and Tabitha Opiyo as they bring us to speed on the very special, important gems that we can glean from this book. I believe that you have enjoyed, you have had a good time, and you're looking forward to grasping a copy of this book and reading it with your children every night before they get to sleep. Thank you so much for staying tuned. Looking forward to having you another day on this same program, Books and Nooks of Hope. Thank you.